Today, we're talking about something that can make or break your website, and that is your images. You could have the most well designed site in the world, but if your visuals aren't high quality, cohesive, and really aligned with your brand, you are missing out on a huge opportunity to connect with your audience. Your images will help tell your story. They're going to help set the tone for your brand and build trust with potential clients before they even read a word. So I sat down with my brand photographer, Charissa Yong, to talk all things brand photography, including when and how to choose a photographer, how to create those visuals that truly reflect your business, and some must-know tips for making the most of your next photo shoot. Charissa is a New Jersey headshot and personal branding photographer who is passionate about creating those authentic photos for individuals and service-based business owners to help them stand out confidently. She has so much to share, so let's dive in. Here's my chat with Charissa. Welcome, Charissa. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Oh, so much for having me. I'm so excited for this interview.
I'm super excited to chat with you because as a web designer, high quality images on a website, it's super important. But when it comes to just how to go about getting these images, my students and my clients often come to me with like a ton of questions and often sometimes fear about like being in the spotlight and how to, get the best type of photos when they're in a session. So I think they're going to get a lot of value from our chat today.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
So I briefly introduced you in the beginning of the video, but if you just why don't you just take a minute to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Sure. I am Charissa. I am the owner of Charissa Yong Photography, and I'm in New Jersey, headshot and personal branding photographer. I'm a mom of two, and I am passionate about creating authentic storytelling photos for individuals, service-based providers, so that they can stand out confidently. Our photos, our headshots, just a simple headshot sometimes can make a huge difference making that first impression.
Definitely. I love when clients come to me with their brand photos already done. Like that's such a huge bonus. But there's a lot of times when like I'll be asked, do I really need to get photos for my website? They're already investing a lot in a website. What are some of the benefits of brand photography, or like why should someone invest in brand photography for their business?
Yeah, definitely. And I like that you use the word invest. It is an investment. Just like what you do for your client, they're investing in a professional website. Your photos does exactly the same thing. Long time ago, people say people need to see your business or anything about your business 7 times before they make a decision to work with you or buy your products. Nowadays, it actually takes more than that. Mm-hmm. That's why consistently showing up online, consistently making sure that your website is working is so important. And the thing is, I like to call these branding photography business lifestyle photography, because it's not just a simple headshot, a very stiff pose. A lot of it is very candid, showing your personality. We do business with people we know, like, and trust. And that's how you can use those branding photos to kind of elevate your brand messaging.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you feel like when someone starts out or they're just starting, like when should someone, what should they be clear on before someone would come to you, say, on their brand photography? Like, should they know their audience? Should they have their brand card? Like, what kind of things should they really know before they would reach out to a brand photographer?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Depending on where you are at your business journey, because a lot of them some of you are starting brand new. I'm doing this niche, or I'm doing this business brand new. I'm transitioning from corporate to a business owner. If you're in that phase of your business, at least get a headshot for your About Me page, mm-hmm. and also for your social media profile. And especially if you're a solo business owner, you want to use that same headshot everywhere, wherever platform you are in, YouTube, Instagram, definitely About Me page, because that's your 24/7 employee that mm-hmm. works for you. If you are 2 or 3 years in, you're in that phase of rebranding, definitely a good idea to get a full branding session. That way you can update on your website. If you're working with a website designer to rebrand your website, perfect time to do that as well. And then you can not only use these photos for your website, you can use it for so many different ways. So just a few examples, you can use it to post on social media. You can use it for any public relation campaign. You can use it on your email newsletter, brochures, business card. There's so many different ways to use it. So don't think of it as like, oh, I'm getting these photos for my website. But there are so many different variety of ways to use it. I have a freebie, which you can share that on your show note, 10 photo ideas and prompts for service-based business, just to give you an idea of some photo examples in there. So even if you just go out and work with a photographer, you can kind of get an idea of what you want in your photo shoot.
That's a great idea. And I love that you said, like, you can use the photos everywhere, because the photos you gave me, I use them in so many spots. Like I use them in my email signature, and like we have one great headshot that I use in a lot of places, or when I'm collaborating with people, and you don't realize how much you can use them and how much easier it makes your life because you have these photos that you can use. And I'm ready for my next one, because I'm like, oh, I want more images. Once you get some, you're like, wow, I could use these in so many different places. So that makes complete sense.
I also like that you share that, and I love the way you're using it. It's so many ways you're using it. And also another thing is it saves you a lot of time, right? Do you agree? Like, especially if you collaborate with someone, or you're doing an interview with someone and they're like, oh, I need your headshot. No problem. I got it.
Right. You got it. It's right there.
And you're done. Instead of like, oh, do I have a headshot recently?
Right.
Where did I put it? So it definitely saves you a lot of time on that sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question, it kind of got me thinking, if someone, a lot of times they'll be like, okay, I need a brand photographer. Do you have any recommendations? I'm like, well, depending on it's harder because it's a location thing a lot of times. Well, what should someone look for when they're looking for a brand photographer? Because I was asking my audience some questions they wanted me to ask you. And one said, like, she worked with a brand photographer, but she didn't get like the shot she wanted. It seemed like more headshots and less like candid or action, which she wanted. So, I mean, I guess you have to be verbal in saying what you want also, but what would be like the first steps for someone finding a photographer to make sure they're a brand photographer that would work for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things is when you're looking for a brand photographer, look on their website, check out their Instagram or wherever their social media pages, and then look in their portfolio just to get an idea of what type of business they've worked with. And if you don't see your specific industry, but you like their style of photos and also editing, definitely reach out to them. I always tell people, don't hire a photographer without talking to them, because if you're not comfortable with the photographer, or you haven't really seen their face or even video of them talking, you don't know how they are. And my thing is, if you don't click with the photographer, it will reflect in your photos. Like, it will show that you're not comfortable or you're not sure. So always, most, every photographer that I know, they do a discovery call or a consultation for free. Talk to them for half an hour. Tell them about your goals, tell them about your vision, and then see if you're the right fit before you work with them. And that way, it's also good for the photographer to know if they can help you, or they can even recommend a package specifically for what you need based on your budget as well. Yeah. So definitely do that. And another thing is, you want to see their editing style. That's very important. Because if you have a brand created, your brand fonts, your color, and all that stuff, that's great. But know your brand vibes. Like, what is the vibe you want people to know? Or when they land on your website or they land on your social media page, because then you can find a photographer that can create those type of brand vibe. And when I say brand vibe, are you into like bright and airy? Are you into like very sharp, colorful photos? Are you into dark and moody type of photos? You want to find a photographer that does sort of those type of editing, because that's where they're expert in, to work with them.
That makes sense. And you need to know your vibe so you know what colors to wear and things like that, which I'm going to be getting into asking you, but I guess that's all part of it. So you need to have a clear understanding of kind of which way you want to go. That makes sense. For like, what if they don't know where to start to find a photographer? Would you just like recommend Googling like brand photographer in like your location and then just start going through portfolios and maybe booking a call, something like that?
100%. Yep. Just do a Google search. Some of my clients, they just do Bergen County branding photographer. You know, the keyword is always used like branding photographer or personal branding photographer.
Right.
And it's also dependent on your business. I know most of your students are service-based provider. If you're a product-based provider, then just type in product branding photographer.
True.
Personal branding photographer is mostly for service providers. And so when you type it in, then you can search for people, assuming they're SEO. Yes. Done correctly on their website, right?
It's so important. I tell my students.
Yes, very important to make sure your SEO shows where you're located at. And so when people type in on Google or any search engine to find you, your profile or your website shows up.
Awesome. All right. So say they find a photographer and they book a date. This is kind of a broad question, but like, what should they do to prepare? What's like the first thing that they should do? Or do you usually send something? Like, what would be the next step?
Yeah, so every photographer is different, but my process basically, once the client work with me, I send them a questionnaire. And that questionnaire is basically getting to know them. Who are their clients? What are their vision? And most importantly, what is their goal? How and where will they use these photos? Because then it will give me a good sense of, should I shoot vertically or horizontally, right? If say I've worked with someone recently who is in dental practice, and she's working with a marketing agency to update the website. And I collaborate with the marketing agency. I tell them, what type of photos do you need? Do you need more horizontal? And she's like, yes, horizontal or square. That's all we use. We never use like vertical photo. If we need to use vertical photo, we just crop it. So shoot wide. Then I know. So so that's very important. So after the questionnaire, that's where I create the must shot list. And that goes into detail of what are the shots we need. Candid photos, headshots, maybe me holding a mug, talking to a client, all of that in detail, including like what outfit you're wearing, what props you're using for each shot. And then I create some sort of Pinterest board so they can. Sometimes people need to visually see like, oh, these are the photos that we're sort of going to capture. Yes. And then it also helps too, because sometimes when I send the Pinterest board, my client will be like, oh, I don't like this. Or I don't like this type of shot. This is not me. Good. That's all I need.
No, now.
It's so important to communicate with your photographer. And trust me, you're not going to hurt our feeling. We want to know. Right. Even during the photo shoot, if the photographer turns your camera around, you're like, can we do this again? Because I don't like the way my hair looks. Yeah. You gotta communicate with us so we know. So then after that, we just go into finding your outfit. Do you need a hair and makeup artist? Do you need personal stylist? That's where I make recommendation. So there's a little bit of homework that you need to do on your end when you work with a photographer, and always ask questions. If you're not sure, say like, I'm not working with a personal stylist, but I'm just going to pick my outfit. And you say, hey, by the way, I'm just going to text you my outfit and let me know what you think. And I always tell my client to do that, because sometimes they feel overwhelmed, and I can tell them straight ahead, like, don't do this pattern because it's not good. Go for this one. So definitely there's a little bit of interaction and communication and homework on your end to prepare for it.
That makes sense. And I love that you said open communication. Like you should be able to feel comfortable talking to your photographer. They should be open to having questions from you so that you can get the right shots you want. And I love that you said, like, I remember with us, like you would turn around and show me the photos like throughout too. So we can kind of see, it kind of made me feel more comfortable. Like, oh, this is, because sometimes you're doing a shot and you're like, I wonder how this is going to look. And like, this kind of feels weird, and then you show it to me like, oh, I get it now and how it looks. So
yeah.
And I love that you also said the horizontal, because as a web designer, I end up getting a lot of vertical shots, which I can use or crop, but having some horizontal shots. So for all of those of you listening, if you're getting some shots, make sure to get some of those horizontal shots as well, because they're really helpful to give you more variety on your site, give me more options to like make your site like look the way you want it to look. So that was just something that popped in my head too.
100%.
Yeah. And you mentioned, and you were also saying like, don't wear, like you can tell them don't go for this pattern or stuff. So when someone is thinking clothing wise, what are some things you would recommend for clothing, not recommend certain patterns? Like, let's get into that a little bit.
All right. Yes. Whether you're doing a photo shoot or a video, like interview, your clothing makes a huge difference, because the camera works a little bit differently than how our eyes look. So first off, don't go shopping yet. Look at what you have in your closet. Because sometimes you have outfit that really makes you feel great wearing it and also makes you feel comfortable. If you wear clothing that is comfortable and makes you feel good, you will feel good and it will show in your photo. If you want to buy something, totally okay. Give yourself 2 weeks. If you plan out your photo shoot 4 weeks in advance, spend 2 weeks, buy clothes, try them on. And then if you don't like it, you have time to return it and buy something else. Another thing is that the pattern, very important. Avoid small dots, small stripes, houndstooth patterns. Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it does warp in the camera. And when I say warp, it's basically you will see some photos and you'll see this weird wavy line going on in the out clothing. And this is something that we cannot edit. And it's impossible to edit, and it would just be very distracting. And you don't want your photo to be distracting. You want people to see your face, see what you do, and not have those distractions. Solid color is always best to go. If you like pattern, go for a larger pattern. Okay. So they don't warp. And colors. So if you have brand colors, you can definitely wear your brand colors in your photo shoot. If you don't want to wear it, say that color is just really like you like the color for your website or for your brand, but not really wearing it, then have some sort of props with that color and add into your photo. A little bit pop of color, I feel like it really showcases your personality.
Definitely. Yeah, because you don't want your photos all to be like neutral and stuff. We can add, if you have that variety too, just as a web designer thinking it's so nice to have that. And then if you have that pop of color, it can tie in with like the pop of color in your buttons on your website, or it all ties together like that. Do you think, you said props, do you provide props? Do people, like typically do photographers provide props, or should you bring your own props? How does that work?
I do provide small props like a mug, some plants, like fake plants and things like that. But it's best to bring your own props. So your own laptop, phone, notebook. If you are a coach, say you have some sort of worksheet or some sort of tools that you use with your client, use that. Some of my client who is a therapist, and she used crystals. So her own crystals, we go to her office and it just works well that way. When we create your branding photo, think of it as we're creating something that really showcases what you do and has to be authentic. So something that you never use, don't put it in the photo shoot.
Right.
You know? And it just has to align with, again, your vision and goal. Like, how will you use those photos?
Right. Right. And I was going to ask, like, are there certain, like people ask me all the time, like, are there certain photos you should get? I'm like, well, just make sure it aligns with like who you are. Like if you sit at a desk, then have them, bring your laptop and have them take some pictures at a desk. Or one thing that I never thought of, but you mentioned to me, was the confetti shot. And I use that in so many places. Like if someone purchases something from me, I have my confetti shot and stuff, like, and that was a fun thing I never thought of. But even thinking outside the box a little bit, or brainstorming with your photographer to come up with some prop ideas or something based off your business before you go in.
That is my favorite shot of you. I still use that photo sometimes because people don't think about it, and sometimes you think, oh, these are the photos that I need. But
Right.
what if you are celebrating your business anniversary?
Yeah.
I did a branding photo shoot with a photographer friend, and I was like, I'm celebrating my 5 year, and I got a 5, like the number 5 balloon.
Oh yeah.
Like you can be as creative as you want to be, especially if you're a coach, a course creator. It doesn't have to be very corporate and very serious looking, because people want to see your silliness and your personality. I'm awkward. Even if you turn the camera towards me, I'm awkward. I'm like, we all always laugh about that. Like, we're a photographer and we don't even know what to do with our hands.
Right.
So it's not just you. So it's more of, the more you do it, the more you're getting the branding photography, the more it actually helps with your confidence.
Yeah.
Because then the more you do it, the more you know what you like and what you don't like. So
Right.
One of the things I also like to ask my clients, if they have worked with the branding photographer, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Because that really gives you a sense of like reflecting on your growth as well. Because I can say, I have clients who go back to years later and they're like, oh, these photos taken with you, I love it, but it doesn't align with where I am right now. So I need new photos. So sometimes you have to go back and think of it that way too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess going along with just feeling more confident and stuff, for those that are really nervous about being in front of the camera, in front of the camera, do you have any tips for them? Because a lot of my students and clients, they're like, I'm like terrified to put myself out there and it's going to feel awkward. Like, does it feel awkward at first and you kind of move it? I mean, I know like when we started, it wasn't awkward, but it was just like, it takes a while to kind of get into the groove of like, all right. And I have so much appreciation for models because it is harder than it seems at first.
Yes. Oh no, that's a great question. And I can tell you and your student and the audience, I was like that. Trust me, I was awkward. I didn't want to put myself out there. I hide behind my work. And a lot of us introvert, find that comforting. Like, I don't have to show my face, good.
Yeah.
But I find that nowadays people want to see you. And things that bothers you, they're not going to notice. And I read this, I either hear this from a podcast or I read this somewhere that says that, when you put yourself out there is how you add value to others people's life. Absolutely. So it's not about you, even though it's awkward to put a photo of yourself and then put a caption on it. But the more you do it, the more you'll feel comfortable with it, the more natural it will feel. And again, it's not just the photo, but like in your writing, I find that what works for me is just write the way you talk. We're not writing an essay in high school.
Right.
So you want to connect with your client in a human way, right? Absolutely, so the one thing you can also do is that when you work with even if you haven't worked with a photographer, try on some clothes, like maybe your favorite outfit, stand in front of the mirror and pose. Get some ideas from Pinterest, like just pose in front of a mirror or have someone use your cell phone and take some photo of you and then look through it. It's weird, but look through it. Then you can kind of tell like, oh, I like this pose.
Yeah.
Or say you might think, oh, this outfit would look great in a photo shoot. But then when you try it on and you stand in front of the mirror, do some standing pose, do some sitting pose, and you may see like, sitting pose might not be that flattering. Maybe I should choose something else. Maybe I can use this for standing pose. So
Okay.
it kind of give you an idea of the more you prepare yourself, the more you practice,
Yes.
it will get better. Trust me. My first branding shoot with a photographer, I was very awkward, very awkward.
Yeah.
But then like years later, now 7 years in, I've done many photo shoot with other photographer friends.
Mhm.
I feel more comfortable. And plus, they're my friends, so it's a little bit,
Right.
it helps.
It
That's
helps.
why I say you need to find a photographer that you click with, and they can be
Yes.
your little cheering buddy.
Cheerleader, right?
And
Yeah.
it just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Branding photography should be fun. It shouldn't be
Absolutely.
very stiff and boring.
Right. No, and it totally makes sense. And like you said, you should be connecting with them before you even book them to make sure that you guys vibe well together, because that is important. The day of the shoot, you want to feel relaxed, like they're a friend, and you can be yourself and just have like, it's not like you're just meeting them and then jumping right into it. So that's a great idea. I like those tips for that. Oh, you know what I want to ask you? Some of my students were like, well, when you book a photographer, is it in a studio? Do you have to be in a studio? Like, what's the best? I don't know if there's no best location, but like, do some people shoot outside for brand photography? Do you recommend more of like a contained studio environment? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. It depends.
Okay.
It depends on what your vision is for the photo shoot. So say you are a course creator. Most of the time you work inside your home. You work virtually, right?
Yes.
Then we can either, and it depends on your comfort level too. A lot of us don't want photo shoot done in our house. Our house is not photo shoot ready. Totally fine. Exactly. I'm in the corner of my living room. So it's like, that's it. This is a nice area.
That's my pretty spot.
Exactly. So there are so many studio, apartment, house, which I've rent all of them like for my client. And I basically help them find a location that match what they're looking for.
Okay.
So there are studios that are not expensive to rent. There are home that you can rent $300 an hour. So it's just depending on the budget. So when you work with the photographer, think of your vision, work in that in your budget. If you're comfortable doing in your own home, obviously that's the best because it really captures your work environment.
Yes.
If you are a coach, say sometimes you meet with a client at a coffee shop, or you have a co-working space you work out of, then we do the photo shoot there. And doing outdoor, you can, but that's more like creating content for your social media. So walking out of your favorite coffee shop, walking down the street in your favorite downtown area, a mural in the background, things like that. So those are more, you want to create those photos more of like for inspirational or introduction posts. So if you're looking into rebranding your website or creating a new website for those photos, that may not do so well. So again, it really depends on your goal.
That's interesting. So most of mine they're on like strictly, well, not all of them, but a lot of them there are online. Some are physical based locations, but if they wanted to like rent out a house or a studio or something like that, their photographer should be able to help them with that.
Yes. They can help them with that. But you can also go to there's two websites. Homestudiolist.com, I believe that's what it is. Okay. And then the other one I use a lot is called peerspace.com, PEER space.com. It basically has listing of everything: photography studio, apartment, house for rent, for anything, photo shoot, video shoot, content creation. So there you can kind of find some rental places in your area, and they also list their pricing and availability, host rules, things like that, parking. So you can definitely take a look there as well.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I will put those links in the show notes below as well. I've never even known about that, because when I went with you, we did it at a studio. It was like part of a package, but yeah, I would never know that you could like actually rent out a house or something to do it. So it's really cool. That's
And
really
everybody can rent those places, not just photographer or videographer, anyone can.
Wow.
So even if you're, say you are a coach and you want to do a workshop and also capturing like some content for that, rent a space and do that.
That's awesome. Let's see, I learned something new too. All right, I just maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So let's say so they have their brand photographer, they've got their outfits, they got their list of shoots. Now it's maybe like the day or the night before. Is there anything that they need to do to prepare for the next day? Like what would that look like?
Yes, definitely. So for me, I always send a photo shoot prep list for my clients so they can prepare themselves. But one of the things you want to do the day before, well, actually, hair. Let's talk about hair.
Okay.
Don't get your hair cut or color your hair the day before your photo shoot.
Ooh, okay.
Do it a week before, because that gives your hair a little bit of time to grow out, the color to be kind of like blend in a little bit better. Fresh cut hair, generally they don't look great.
Okay.
So that's number one. That's 1 week out. The day before, lay out all your clothes, your outfit, your accessories, your shoes that you're gonna bring. Pack all your props, some water, some snacks. So and makeup kit. Just so that you have everything ready. And the day before, try not to do too many things. If you have work, of course, like client call and things like that, those are fine. But you want to rest, you want to hydrate. The night before, try to go to sleep early. I know you might be nervous, drink some tea, put some lavender on, something to kind of help you relax and just go to sleep. If your photographer helps you prepare everything and go over everything, you should be able to just show up and have fun.
That's awesome.
And the day of, depending on the time of your photo shoot, eat something first before you go. Because doing the photo shoot, like you said, I don't know how those models do it, because it takes a lot of energy, right? By the end of it, you're exhausted.
Sure, it sounds funny, but it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to eat something first, but not something so heavy that you're just like, oh, I feel terrible after. You want to eat something that is healthy, light, but also filling. So it gives you energy throughout the photo shoot.
That's awesome. And one thing you mentioned that just sparked my mind. So with outfits, you can have more than one outfit, right? Like you could have a variety of different outfits depending on how much time you have for your photo shoot. Like you can do some changes, right? Do you recommend that? Like getting a couple different outfit shots?
Yes, definitely. And it depends on the photographer you work with. They'll tell you like, oh, this package includes 2 outfit changes, or this include unlimited outfit changes. When you work with the photographer, ask them questions. I actually have a blog that you can share as well with your audience. 9 questions to ask before you hire a branding photographer.
Oh, that's great.
So that one thing is that you want to make sure that you're prepared, so that you can do your photo shoot. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, this has been great. You answered so many questions for my clients, I know. Where can people learn more from you, or if they're in the area, how can they work with you? You can let me know, and then I will make sure to put everything in the show notes. But if you have anything you want to let everyone know, feel free to share it here.
Thank you so much. Well, first off, this was wonderful. Those are some great questions you have from your student. Excited to share. So you can find all my information, including my social media link, things like that, on my website, CarissaHYoungPhotography.com. I also have some free resources there as well. I know you're going to include some in your show note, but you can go to my resource page. If you're locally in New Jersey, like especially in North Jersey area, I do run a monthly women business owners meetup event, free to attend. Most of them are free. Some have like a small fee depending on where we're at. So like lots of resources for you to look at. And I'm more active on Instagram, so you can follow me there at Charissa Young Photography.
That's amazing. And definitely check out her resource page, because she has some great opt-ins, like you were mentioning earlier, that you can get. And I think that would be really helpful, even if you're not there and you don't work with her, that you could take to your photographer and just make sure that you're on the same page. But this has been great. It's been so informative. I hope you guys watching have really, gotten some great takeaways, and make sure to check out all the links for Charissa, and I will see you guys in the next video.